Hello, welcome back to my YouTube channel Built by Ben. In this week's video we will be measuring for and making the tower units for our TV media wall. If you like what you see on this channel, then press the like button, subscribe and ring the bell for notifications on my upcoming videos. Cheers!
Okay, so we can start to see it take shape now. We've got them bottom 3 units and a worktop put on. It's just temporary for now so that we can start doing some of the workings out. So at this stage we're now going to draw the TV on the wall to where he'd like it. So we're going to draw that about here somewhere, and then we can work out what type of gap we've got around the telly, which will then give us the widths of the 2 units that we can build next to it. So we've got an 8-inch gap around the unit. We're going to aim for an 8-inch gap around the telly as well, and then when the lights are behind the telly and the lights are around the unit, that'll give us something that looks fairly smart and uniform. So we'll mark that out on the wall now. So I've just used my laser here to get our centre line. Handy just to put a couple of marks all the way up. This line here is going to be the top. Nothing to go past that. There's a picture rail just above that, I believe. So we don't want to go any further up. So with the centre line, if you just draw a little C in a few places over the line, if you ever see that, it usually means that someone has marked that centre line before. So what that does is just, especially on this wall, just puts it apart from all of these other lines, so we're not getting confused with anything. So any measurement we make is going to be away from that line. That's where we're going to measure our TV to now, and then we'll draw that rectangle on to see what we're playing with. Okay, so I've drawn the TV on the wall here. This is that dark black line here. We've gone 250mm down to here. Don't forget, this has all got a raised 50mm on the plinth before it's fitted, so that allows for 200mm underneath the TV, and then we've marked 200mm above the TV. We want this line, which is going to be the bottom of our cabinet that sits on top. So the customer's decided that for the wall units that come up the side here, we're going to try and keep everything in line with the gap in the doors. So originally we were going to go for 200mm gap on the left of the telly as well, but now we're just going to go for the centre line of that unit, and then everything coming across here as well will be symmetrical, and it will line up with all of the gaps in the doors. So it's a nice way of doing it. Looks a lot neater when it's finished. Also, I think if we build these too wide, if you then want to split them in half, they'll be quite useless spaces, whereas the slightly wider single ones will be a lot more usable. So what we'll do now is we'll just mark the rest of our lines, and then we can take some measurements for our side units and our wall hung cabinets above, and then we can start making them. Okay, so that's what we've ended up with. We've got this nice area here coming around the telly. So the top and the bottom of that are going to match what we've got around the perimeter. And then these side bits we've just made a little bit wider, which we can make use of later. We can put a headphone hanger there, we can put some little floating shelves. Depending on what the customer wants, you can always make use of that. So what we're now going to do is start building up these tower units up the side here. Now that we've got our lines, we want to start measuring to that. So then bottom units were 1066. So obviously halfway where the doors are going to meet are going to be 533. So the overall size of our side units there wants to be 533. So we know that, we'll just jot that down. And then what we can do is we can measure up to our top line. Which we've got 1690. So that's going to be the overall size of this side unit here. And then once we've got them two built, we can then measure our wall hung units up the top here and we can keep all of the partitions in there in line with the doors as well, make it look really neat and tidy. So the makeup of these side units are actually going to be slightly shallower than the base units. So we want to go 400mm out from the back. So if we write that down as well, we know that we've got that 400 depth to play with, and then we also want that small cable void behind that as well, because there's PlayStations, Skyboxes, Xboxes, whatever you want to go on there. We've got to get wires into the telly and down to the power. So we've got to make sure we've got this constant void behind everything so that we can get wires behind there nicely and hide them. So we've benched another sheet of MDF and we want to build these side tower units. So we know our size is 533 by 1640 by 400 deep. That's a very awkward size when it comes to these sheets. Sometimes you just can't get away with it. Best way to optimise that is to cut your 1640 height, and then out of that 1640 height we can get one of the sides of the units, which is 400, and then we can get the back of the unit, which will be 533. And that's the best way to cut that, because you've then got as less wastage as possible. But any waste, again, we need to keep. We'll cut the plinth out of that. Once we've got enough waste, we'll build that plinth. And we can also get a lot of the shelves and the partitions out of that as well. So we're going to go ahead and cut this, start cutting all the pieces for the tower units. Okay, so we've had to switch over cameras. One of them's run out of battery, so we're on this one now. Might look a bit different in picture, but same process. So this is the back of our tower unit. This is one of the sides, the other side is over there. So as before, we want to be putting 2 bits of MDF under there. Same again here, and then we're measuring up. I think we had 45mm before, yeah, 45mm will then be the centre of where we want to put our screw holes along here. So we'll mark that all the way along, ready to drill our countersink holes. Okay, and then that one's ready to put up against here. We need to get some glue on this edge first, and then we'll screw that in. So I've got a tiny little paintbrush here, bought them cheap off of Amazon. We're just going to spread the glue onto the edges. Try and get as much coverage there as possible. So what I'm doing is I'm keeping the bottom of the unit completely flush, because on these tower units there's actually going to be no bottom to them. The worktop on the carcasses will act as the bottom of this, because I know that this customer has an ornament that they want to put in this area on top of the worktop that is actually slightly longer than the depth of these units. So we need to make sure that that then won't sit over the little step at the bottom there. So essentially the worktop is going to be the bottom of these tower units. Okay, and now that that's built, we can then measure this top piece, get the top screwed in, and then that tower unit is pretty much ready, because we're not going to put the shelves on until the customer's decided whereabouts he wants them. So next step is the top. Right, so we've got these two offcuts from day one. We can use these for the tops of the tower units. Whilst we're cutting this size, I might as well just cut both tops ready for the second tower unit as well. So we'll crack on and do that.
Thanks for watching this week's video. Don't forget to like and subscribe and tell your mates about it. Cheers.